What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Week 9 version of the Max Brown Show. We're rocking and rolling now. Sundays, 4:30. You already know the deal. I'm coming back from this morning. I was in Pittsburgh for the second time this year, third time calling my alma mater, the Pitt Panthers. I got a home game or semi-home game this week. I got Pitt on the farm. Very rare. So I live in LA, but have to travel to the East Coast pretty much every single week because I'm calling ACC games. But as we know, there's two precious ACC programs on the West Coast. First time all year, I'll get a Stanford or Cal game, which is a travel blessing for me. And then it's a prep blessing as well because it'll be the fourth time I've had Pitt. I know this roster inside and out. But what a week of college football it was yesterday. We had Oklahoma upset Ole Miss. If you watched the previews, you know that I was all over that one. I was in the minority. I said, yo, Ole Miss, they're going to that's the best offense Oklahoma's faced all season long. That was a different kind of task, which we'll get into. That's my first segment, looking at Trinidad Chambliss, whatever, we'll roll with it. And he's balling for Ole Miss. Ole Miss is not a team that I would want to face, especially as we look forward into the playoff, because if that offense shows up on the right side of the bed, I think that's a term I use a lot, they can get after you. Mizzou lost to Vandy. Sad to see Beau Pribula go down. Texas A&M took care of business. Again, that was one we were all over. I said this was not the 2024 version of Marcel Reed where it was zone reads and design quarterback runs. He ran the ball a lot in that game, don't get me wrong, but it was legitimate passes that then he's able to utilize his legs and make something happen there. Sneaky one that no one's talking about. Washington took care of business versus Illinois. To me, that was an elimination game. Loser out of the playoff conversation. Winner very much in. If Washington were to go clean the rest of November, and again, I've said this a bunch over there on X and Twitter for those of you guys watching over there, but this feels like the year where a 9-3 team gets in. You just got it's messy in the ACC. It's messy in the SEC. It's clean in the Big Ten. The Big Ten, to me, has a very clear tier 1 with Ohio State, Indiana, and I still put Oregon in there. And then that fourth team is where the drop-off is. Maybe Washington can get in there. Iowa's been gaining steam. No one likes USC right now, but don't count the Trojans out. They have the roster and the offense to get in there. But then it's also messy to finish at that point in the Big 12 as well. Chat, how we doing? We're active on YouTube, X, Instagram, TikTok. We got it all. Chat, how we living? I can open the chat right here. Username the. Keeping it simple. Maybe I'm missing something, but I like your style. I told you were going to be okay. Appreciate it. There we go. Raphael. What's up, man? Raphael, my bad. Does SC have a chance at Oregon, do you think? I mean, it was Northwestern that gave them a decent game. USC's got a chance for sure. USC's not a scrub team. They're not an elite team, but they with USC's offense, weather is a big thing. That's one thing where if it's a grimy game, I don't think that favors USC, but maybe USC goes up there and pulls a little 2011 version. The year USC went 10-2 and upset. Who was that quarterback that year? Darren Thomas, Matt Barkley versus Darren Thomas. Was that what it was? But USC definitely has a chance. Max, we got crushed by Indiana, man. UCLA, it's tough, man. We've got a lot of UCLA content. Ruben, what's going on, man? All right, without further ado, let's hop in. We're chatting Ole Miss's offense versus the Oklahoma defense. Tanner, throw up that slide real quick, because their quarterback is balling. Ole Miss's quarterback. Trinidad Chambliss. Perfect. Trinidad Chambliss is the third most accurate quarterback against the pressure in the country. But when he's kept clean, he's not even in the top 70. You heard that right. When he's pressured, he's the third most accurate quarterback in the country. When he's kept clean, he's not even in the top 70. That is the weirdest stat I've seen all all day, but coming off the back of the weekend. So why do defensive coordinators keep blitzing them? There's a bunch that we'll get into. It's an identity standpoint from Oklahoma. It's also a Brent Venables thinking that a college quarterback's not going to execute at a high level on a consistent basis. But as we get into this first play, this is early on in this game for Ole Miss. Oklahoma, this is a familiar look that Oklahoma lined up with much of the game. Backers walked up tough, backers standing up, sometimes multiple linebacker or even defensive ends standing up, but muddying up this box. Why are they doing that? They're forcing the offensive line for Ole Miss to execute and for Trinidad to process and get the ball out of his hands quickly. This is early on in this game, and I think it set the tone for how aggressive Ole Miss's offense was going to be. And it gave Lane Kiffin a lot of trust and confidence in the game plan that Ole Miss had. Here's where it's at. I'll play the play first. It's literally it's a corner route to the top of the screen. Absolute dime by Trinidad. And when that's good coverage, and you Oklahoma faithful that are watching this video, you guys got on me all over X for saying that I didn't know football. And hey, when you blitz, we're purposely leaving guys open. That's a load of crap. If you're leaving guys open, this stuff happens. This is good coverage here. It's just a better throw. But I told you guys this past week, it was only a matter of time where Oklahoma got caught. They hadn't faced a quarterback as good as Trinidad. He made them pay. In weeks past, when you're facing Auburn, when you're facing South Carolina, and I know Lenora Sellers before the season was a great quarterback. They hadn't faced an offense that made him pay like this. The concept here, though, you got a little corner route to the top of the screen, a little return route by this slot coming here, and then a drag route by the receiver working left to right. As you guys just saw, Trinidad's going to put it right on the spot right there. Pre-snap, when you see Lane Kiffin and he's like running down the sideline because he already knows the play and he already knows exactly how it's going to play out. This is one of those examples where if you're Trinidad pre-snap as a quarterback, you already know you've won because you have an outbreaking corner route right here on an inside leverage safety. Inside leverage safety, he's so scared about getting beat across his face. You're going to have this all day long. If you're Brent Venables, again, you're banking on the fact that that's a long throw. It's a tough throw, got to be accurate, and you won't consistently execute this play in and play out. This is getting it done. Oklahoma blitzed Chambliss 21 times in that game. 43% of his dropbacks. It's the most they've blitzed anybody since 2022. Little call out because if you're watching this on a Sunday night or a Monday, you're going to hear that stat a lot all week. This is where people don't trust PFF and some of the metrics as much because even though a defense blitzes a linebacker, doesn't mean it's technically a blitz. And I think sometimes the stats lie there. Oklahoma brought 4 and 5 a lot, with one of those guys being a backer blitzing from depth, but then they would back out defensive ends. Again, forcing this offensive line and Trinidad to process. To me, the quarterback in me, that's not technically a blitz. But when I watch this film, I'm like, yo, how are they getting 21 pressures in this game? They didn't blitz 21 times. Well, they technically brought a backer 21 times. And I think that's where the PFF advanced stats are, saying it's a blitz. But to me, it's more of what they call a simulated pressure where it looks like a blitz. Well, they're backing out guys on the other side. That's getting a little in the weeds. But regardless, again, this is where Trinidad is operating. This is where he's playing big time quarterback. And, a criticism with Jackson Dart was like, oh, is he being asked to run the show? Obviously he's balling in the NFL, but a criticism when he was at Ole Miss was, hey, is this really an offense that translates to the next level, translates to the NFL? When I see this play, this is Lane Kiffin putting a lot on his quarterback. And here's what I mean. Normally, you saw it versus Georgia. Normally, Ole Miss wants to just protect and hit deep shots down the field. This time, they know they can't get away with that because this defensive line looks like they're bringing pressure. What they know they have is one-on-one here in the slot, and this out route, again, versus an inside leverage corner or inside leverage safety, that's the winning route. I don't need a go ball with this corner staring straight at the quarterback. I love this outbreaking route by the slot, and I believe this was a third down. I didn't write it down. I think this was a third down. Reason I love it though is because they have Daquan Wright. If you guys watched my Ole Miss breakdown last week, you know I love Daquan Wright. He's a unique tight end for this Ole Miss offense. Oh, my leg just hit the cord. They don't want him pass blocking. He's a receiving threat. He can pass block, but look at this. Trinidad's going to change the protection. Oklahoma has 7 guys there in that blue circle. He's going to bring Wright over to the left side to then block against this linebacker who's blitzing. He's recognizing the blitz. He's helping himself out by bringing a tight end over. He's going to have his running back then blitz or block this linebacker who's rushing on the bottom of the screen. Defensively for Oklahoma in the box, again, we just talked about it. Simulated pressure. They're bringing 5 here, so not to go back into the weeds there. They're bringing 5. They have 7 guys lined up in the box. They're going to drop 2 linebackers out. The reason I love this so much is this is Trinidad processing at a high level. Not only is he recognizing the coverage on the top of the screen, but he's like, yo, I got a wide open receiver if I can protect myself. Again, you Oklahoma fans were getting on my skull on X, being like, oh, Max, no shit. If we bring pressure, you're not going to have time to get rid of the ball. Well, when you're facing Ole Miss and you got a quarterback who can protect himself and say, hey, I know you're bringing pressure. Let me get my guys in the right spot to protect myself. Well, then you're leaving your secondary vulnerable on an island with an outbreaking route. Again, with all that going on, look at how he moves over right to protect himself. He's like, oh, I'm not good. I'm not good. Let me protect myself. They're bringing heat. Motion them over, clean pocket, ball out, easy pitch and catch. But there's a lot more that goes into that. And when you complete a throw like that, if you're Lane Kiffin, you're like, yo, we're cooking with gas. That's the terminology. Yeah, cooking with gas allows the offense to open up even more. Another creative concept I like here. Again, Oklahoma, you're not really sure what you're going to get if they're walking up these linebackers. They got only one. I didn't mean to circle it that bad or that big. They have one linebacker walked up here. Oklahoma loves to play games. One way to get a defense out of their game is put 4 receivers to one side. 1, 2, 3, and then the running back is the 4th receiver. Why does that get a defense out of their game? Because when you send 4 receivers to one side, you have to make sure a defender goes with him. So then this backside safety who's on the other side of the hash, he now has to run and be the 4th defender with this running back out of the backfield. Why does that matter? Because when you have a backer walked up and a safety leaving his side of the field, that leaves a lot of green grass for a slant backside. Little thing ends up being a big thing. That's where they hit it. Slant to the top of the screen. Easy pitch and catch. Trinidad's great timing, getting the ball out of his hands, and it's making Oklahoma pay for standing linebackers up and trying to do a lot rather than staying in their base defense. Trinidad threw for 128 yards and 1 touchdown when he was facing extra pass rushers on Saturday. Here is the 1 touchdown. Yeah, actually, yeah, this is this has to be they're bringing 7 or bringing 6 on this play with this linebacker. Trinidad makes him pay. I'll play it first so you get an idea of what's going on, then I'll break it down. Little play action. Trinidad's buying some time, escapes. Again, not to belabor a point, Oklahoma fans, not trying to get on you, but again, it is not a sound defensive strategy blitzing and leaving guys wide open. It might work versus Auburn. It's not working versus Ole Miss because stuff like this happens. Boop, wide open, touchdown. Here is the concept here. Boom, into the flat. Z, working the over. X, working the over to the other side. And then a little delay right here on the other side of the field. Obviously, he hits this tight end on the delay. Sorry, messy drawings, but you get the point. They're bringing pressure. Trinidad manages that pressure, gets to from his front side all the way to his backside for a touchdown there. That is big time, big time. And so naturally, when you're seeing that, you're like, Max, why would Brent Venables continue to pressure Trinidad if he's having this much success? I think it comes down to two things. One, it's part of Oklahoma's identity. So they've had success with it all season long. You're not just going to switch in a moment's notice. And then two, at the college level especially, you're banking that a college quarterback will eventually make the catastrophic mistake. Eventually will make a poor decision because the pressure's on him. Eventually will try to force a throw in there, and that's where you get him. And Trinidad, what was his stat line there? He had no turnovers that game. So that's clean football, and Oklahoma was very much in that game down to the wire. Speaks to the high-level quarterback play that Trinidad had. Venables going into this game was 30-7 against true freshmen and redshirt freshman quarterbacks. And I know Chambliss is not a true freshman or a freshman, but I say that in the context of he's coming from the Division II level. They were not doing exotic blitzes to this level at the Division II level. I guarantee you that. So this was a different kind of test for the quarterback. So there was a body of evidence there of Venables saying, "Hey, I've had this package before. Let me bring it to the park versus this guy and see if I can make him pay." Last couple ones for good measure. Point I want to drive home with this one is you've been bringing pressure all day if you're Oklahoma. This is where Oklahoma gets caught in no man's land, where these two linebackers, they're not blitzing, they're not in coverage. I guess they're spying, but not really. And you get caught where those linebackers not really making it, not really being a factor in this in this play at all. But on the outside, you're putting your corners in man coverage with a single high safety. That's tough because if I have two linebackers not doing anything, well, then rush the passer. At least put some heat on this quarterback because I have my corners on an island. All right, you don't want to rush the passer? Well, then I'd rather have these guys in coverage to then help out your corners. That's a byproduct of Trinidad getting the ball to his hands quickly the entire game and passing every question to the test, so to speak. And then, sorry, I didn't play this one to start. He's going to hit this slot fade for a home run shot. And then just for fun, where's Kiff? Kiff's right here for those of you guys that can see it. He knows he's got one-on-one, so he runs after this deep shot. But look at those linebackers. They kind of get caught in no man's land, not really doing anything. One-on-one shot down the field. That's where it takes a toll. If you're blitzing the entire game and don't get home, well, then guys start slowing up, not being as aggressive. And then the weakness, this is the game plan. I think going in, Brent Venables was saying, hey, we're going to heat things up on the quarterback. And that's where our game plan is going to be. But when you have linebackers and defensive ends standing up, you leave yourself vulnerable in the run game. And I think Venables said, hey, we'll take our chances with the Ole Miss run game. And Kewan Lacey, that dude is a baller and might be the X factor of this Ole Miss team if they ultimately make a run because he was breaking tackles. This was the perfect example. You got linebackers standing up. This was the first touchdown in the game. He gets quickly through that first level. That's always the trade-off. You love how aggressive this defense can be in the blitz game, but you can leave yourself susceptible in the run game there. End of the day, Trinidad averaged 293 yards passing against Oklahoma, Georgia, and LSU. Tanner, roll through that last Ole Miss remaining schedule. You got, it's gettable for Ole Miss in the SEC. The Citadel, don't sleep on the Citadel. I called a Citadel game last year versus Clemson. No, I'm just messing. You got South Carolina, grand scheme. I don't know if that's home or away. I'll have to check. But grand scheme of an SEC schedule to have South Carolina, Florida, and Mississippi State, that is very much gettable. Ole Miss, one-loss team. I said it in the YouTube breakdown I posted on Thursday. Keep a lookout for those. I'm posting now game previews midweek where I'm diving into the film, trying to find out the X factor that will dictate who ultimately wins the game. But what was my point there? I just lost my train of thought. Either way. That the Ole Miss Oklahoma game was a game for the spot in the playoff. Winner controls their destiny. Loser, very much an uphill battle, but gettable for Ole Miss there. AJ, how we doing? Good to see you again. Anchored down, Vandy fan. OU fans, you know I got love for you though. You guys, this might get clipped out. You'll be like, "Yo, I hate this quarterback," but I was almost a Sooner, so I got love for the Sooners. Josh Heupel, throwback, fun story. Josh Heupel came to my Tanner. You can take that slide down. Josh Heupel came to my high school basketball game. I loved Oklahoma when he was the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. Stood on the baseline. I was playing my rival. I got a little fast break pass, and I think Oklahoma's concern, rightfully so, was whether or not I was athletic enough, which I get. Pocket passer guy. I got a little outlet pass. Tanner, let's take this slide off. Sorry, got a little outlet pass, little one dribble, two-handed slam right in front of Josh Heupel, and I got the Oklahoma offer the next Monday. So, lesson for all you guys: all you quarterbacks, play two sports. I always say nowadays, though, I would not have been a 5-star recruit as a pocket passer. The game has evolved. LSI, what's going on? Ruben, how we living? Immolation, liquidation. All right, let's hop over to what do we got next? YouTube, appreciate you guys hanging out there. We got Texas, baby. The Longhorns snuck away with a win. Snuck away with the win. Let me pull up that footage real quick. What an eventful day for the Longhorns. You got Arch at 9 a.m. having to deal with reports about him going to the NFL. 9 p.m., he's saying that's absolutely false. In between then, they got away with one. Texas went down 31-14, and reports had come out that morning that their coach, like I just said, my old head coach, Steve Sarkisian, flirting with some NFL interest for any openings that might come about this offseason. Sark ultimately disputed those rumors. But nevertheless, busy day for the Longhorns, and their offense, which had looked unimpressive most of the season, had been slowed to a standstill for the first 27 minutes of the game outside of this route right here. Things were very bleak until this happened for Sark's squad. This is the first play of the fourth quarter. Let me get my Texas breakdown. First play of the fourth quarter. You just saw it. It's the deep post shot to Ryan Wingo, who Ryan Wingo is an absolute baller. The Longhorns need to feed him the rock even more. He's a unit. But he's going to go on the deep post as the head man in the bunch. You got a little curl route that's just searching for green grass, and then a little wheel route by the inside most receiver in the bunch. This is excellent protection by the offensive line for Texas. They're going to slide to their right, and it's the perfect play call because defensively, Mississippi State's going to drop that end. The reason I bring that up is for Arch, it allows him to escape to the pocket to the left and buy time to ultimately hit this deep post shot down the field. Numbers-wise, it's the next play. Never mind. But check this out. Arch has the arm strength. He's got the mobility. When you piece it together, it looks pretty. Ryan Wingo's got the speed, and dude is physical too. Home run shot. This started the momentum in the fourth quarter for the Longhorns that they needed desperately. You go from that was the fourth quarter, back to the first quarter, though. This is literally, that's the first play of the fourth quarter. This is the first play of the entire game. And I wanted to show you this one because I love Ryan Wingo. He's an absolute weapon. I don't know how many catches he had, but it was not many. If I'm Sark, get this dude the rock because he can do something with it afterwards. Love the design by Sark, though. He's going to have 5 players out to one side, 5 players to the right. And the Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, Sark's buddy, the breakdown we just did, we talked about 4 out to one side. Well, what happens when you have 5 out to one side? They're going to swing Wingo in a little swoop motion, or Sark used to call it swoop. What did he call that? The signal was always this, like X swoop with Sark. And then they're just going to easy throw, get an easy completion to Arch. This is an easy read because you're putting 5 out to one side, yet Mississippi State still has 3 defenders, a corner, a safety, and a linebacker backside. That is a huge numbers advantage for Texas because they're going to have this slot receiver just block the most dangerous. You got a tight end working out, running back working out. Running back might be on a little run fake. Nevertheless, though, there is numbers to this side. And then when Wingo makes someone miss, it's a home run shot. Zone read, ball out, numbers on your side, boom. And look at this. Look at this. That dude is fast. That dude is physical. Wrapping up is optional for the Mississippi State secondary. It's a heck of a play. Heck of a play. Arch had his most productive game of the season versus a Power 4 opponent. He was 29 of 46, 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. This, I'll get to the touchdown throw next. This I thought this is a 1st and 10. It's in the 4th quarter. This is where the flashes of Arch are really good. And it's not just like, oh, we were totally overhyping Arch. No, he shows it at times. It's just a matter of piecing it together. He's got a little circus route that he's going to hit to the top of the screen here. The tight end's on a little 5-yard out to the top of the screen. He's got a post, and he's got a dig route versus Tampa 2 coverage for the defense. This dig's actually wide open here as well. But he's going to fit a circus route on the top of the screen in very tight coverage. This is an excellent throw, and they needed it. This is 4th quarter. Can't waste any of those opportunities. Bang, tight window. That corner's trying to play 2 for 1. Excellent throw by Arch. I mentioned the stat line and the touchdowns. This is the touchdown that put him within 1 score, I believe. My bad for not writing down the score. But they're going to motion this receiver in. You're going to fake the block. And then he's got a little, what do we call this under Sark's offense? I'm blanking. But he's got a vertical shot by the slot. That's ultimately going to be a touchdown. You got 2 tight ends to this top of the screen. First one's working a corner. Second one's working a dig. Arch nose versus a 1-high safety playing in the middle of the field. There's no help over the top of this receiver. He's got 1-on-1 down here. Take advantage. Put this ball up. Allow your receiver to make a play. Mississippi State, they're bringing 6 guys. They're bringing 6. That oftentimes means it's man coverage behind it. Use your mobility, Arch. And I'll do an offseason breakdown on this. I think at this stage in Arch's career, I don't think he has great pocket awareness for how mobile he is. Like there's a lot of quarterbacks that are better in the pocket from a mobility standpoint that are probably a half second slower than him in the 40-yard dash. But he buys just enough time, gets the ball up, touchdown shot. That play gets Texas within 1 touchdown there. I forget what play this is, to be honest. So let me play it first, then I'll break it down. Oh, this is another good one. The reason I showed this, 4th quarter, 3rd and 4, got to stay on the field. Sark, do you trust your young quarterback? Yes, he does. This is a really good throw. You got an out route in the slot. You got a slant route to the top of the screen. You got a curl by the tight end and a dig by the receiver on the bottom of the screen. We talked about it in the Ole Miss breakdown. Out breaking route here in the slot. versus inside leverage, an inside leverage safety. Yeah, rolled up on your slot receiver. 3rd and 4, trust in Arch, wide side of the field, gets the ball to his hands, accurate throw, moving the sticks, had to have it. There's 7:40 left in this game. You don't deliver that throw, you're on the sidelines not making anything happen. I thought it was a really good fourth quarter by Arch Manning. Probably his best game of the year. Certainly not perfect. Texas has to get a lot better offensively, but if you're looking for areas to be optimistic, I think that fourth quarter, especially for Arch, was big time. I want to get into the Texas defense real quick, and I don't talk a lot about defense, so you know it's good stuff when I bring the footage defensively. And I thought it was a great coordinator cat and mouse game. 2 straight defensive coordinator wins for Texas, which we'll talk through. It's late in the fourth quarter. I believe it's tied right now. It's 3rd down. Got to have it. It's 3rd and 12. Got to get off the field if you're Texas. Texas elects to walk up 6 defenders here in the box. 6 defenders here in the box. What they're going to do is a little pick and roll type of pass game where this linebacker is going to rush at the right guard, trying to pick it for his defensive tackle to loop around him. And what happens, I actually don't know if I have a back view. What happens is that pick and roll forces the right guard, hopefully I have a back view, the right guard and the running back to just not be on the same page, and you get a sack. Hopefully I have a back view. I don't. Let me give it to you one more time then. So you're rushing 7 guys this first time on a 3rd and 14. Not to belabor the point, but you got this linebacker rushing against the right guard, and then he's going to slip through when he has leverage. This defensive tackle here is going to loop around him. Running back tries to pick him up, but just too much pressure. Ultimately, the linebacker gets the sack. But the point I'm trying to drive home is on this 3rd down, they come after Mississippi State. That's the biggest takeaway. They come after Mississippi State with an inside game by the defensive tackle and the linebacker. Later that game, or the very next drive, it's 3rd and 6, another 3rd down. 4th quarter, there's 19 seconds left in the game. This is the down in the game. It's tie ball game. If Mississippi State gets a completion right here, they might have a field goal and win this thing. Defensive coordinator, this is why you're getting paid millions of dollars to dial up something here. Well, what is Mississippi State thinking that they're going to do? They're thinking that they're going to do the exact same thing. Texas is going to do the exact same thing they did on the very last 3rd down. Walk up 7 guys and bring pressure. They're given that same exact look right here, right? 2, 4, just 6 guys this time, but a very similar walking guys up. You're expecting pressure. Except this time with the 2 linebackers right here walking themselves up, they back out the guy that's looking like he's blitzing, and they bring the linebacker that does not look like he's blitzing. Again, forcing this Mississippi State offensive line and running back to process. And the reason that matters, little things that end up being huge things, the reason that matters is this running back in the backfield gets confused. He steps up aggressively as if he's supposed to block this linebacker, but he's not. That's not his responsibility, but he has it in the back of his mind from the last drive of like, oh, I can't give up a sack. I got to be up there in pass protection. And as a result of thinking he's in pass protection, he's late to get out in the pass concept. And if he gets out quicker, which is what Mississippi State's quarterback's looking for, they might get this running back the ball, and he very well might pick up 6 yards, keep the chains moving, get Mississippi State in field goal range, and beat Texas with the last-second field goal. This is a defensive coordinator win by Texas, playing mind games, knowing that, hey, last time I brought the house, they're thinking I'm going to bring the house again. Let me back out of it, and this running back slow to roll. I'll play it a couple times. See, running back steps up. He's like, oh, crap, that's not my guy to block. And then he's too late for the quarterback to actually get him the ball. That's a lot going on. But let me They're going to back this backer out. They're going to bring this linebacker. This running back thinks he's blocking this linebacker, but he doesn't need to. The center and the guard have it covered. As a result of him stepping up, he's late to get out of the backfield, and they miss an opportunity for a completion as a safety valve for this quarterback, which could have kept the Mississippi State on the field and could have led to a game-winning field goal for the Bulldogs later in that game. Love the defensive coordinator mind games there. And Tanner, let's throw up this last slide. Texas's remaining schedule. At 6-2, the Athletic gives Texas a 5% chance of winning the SEC after this weekend. And it took overtime for the Longhorns to survive two of the three teams that are still winless in the SEC. With three current top 10 teams, Vandy, Georgia, Texas A&M, still left on their schedule. That's not a good sign if you're Texas. You've been struggling with the bottom tier of the SEC, and look at the gauntlet that they have. You guys have heard me say it before too. Texas or Arkansas's offense, they wake up on the right side of the bed. I actually didn't see how they did this past week, so take that with a grain of salt. I got to watch that film. But Texas A&M looks legit. That game for the Aggies could be for a first-round bye in the CFP. Obviously, they're going to be focused as a rivalry game, but that could be for a first-round bye. Georgia, huge stakes. And then Vandy, not only stakes for Vandy and their SEC title hopes and CFP hopes, but if Diego Pavia is talking Heisman, they need to make that happen as well. HR says USC defensive coordinator Danton Lynn would have played two high safeties against Navy. Navy be taking some shots, though. That's a good one, though. I like that. Jeff, how we living? HR says we coming, Coach Prime. HR, who's your squad? Which squad wants Coach Prime? I'm interested to see what Coach Prime does, because it just kind of feels like between his health scares and his kids no longer being on the team, I don't want to downplay the significance of his of where his health sat. But if he was going to exit stage left and just kind of fade away, feels like this is the recipe for him to do that. It's ugly this past weekend in Boulder. You got the health concerns. Your kids have moved on. The buzz and the hype. And I mean, last 2 years, every single one of their games was like nationally televised prime slot. Even if it was late night for a West Coast guy, it was prime slot. They've just lost the buzz. I still would think, though, if I'm Arkansas and if Auburn's job opens up, if I'm Florida State, you have to at least consider what Deion can do, because the number one thing for a coach nowadays is not X's and O's. It's your ability to build a roster. And I know it hasn't worked out this year for Colorado, but the way that Deion flipped that roster from literally the worst roster in Power 4 or 5 college football to at least being a respectable Big 12 team, if you're Florida State, you at least got to think about that, or Arkansas or Auburn, because you combine SEC resources with what Deion could do in the portal. People are going to say, "Oh, it didn't work out at Colorado." It's a different ball game if you're given more resources there. HR, Pete Kwiatkowski is the Texas defensive coordinator. You're right. My bad. I've known that. I know that he's followed Sark every step of the way outside of USC. He was with Chris Peterson at Boise State and Washington. Yep. I grew up in Seattle, and he was the DC there. Actually, that's a lie. Nick Holt was the DC at first for Sark, and I believe Kwiatkowski was his linebacker coach at the time, or Justin Wilcox was the safety coach. Justin Wilcox is the linebacker coach. Either way, yeah, that staff goes way back to the Chris Peterson days. He would make a great head coach, you're saying. I have never heard Pete Kwiatkowski's name as a head coach. It's a good point. Why is he never in the running? YouTube, how we doing? Chandler, what's going on, man? Ole Miss has 3 home games in a row, then a bye week before Mississippi State on the road. The Egg Bowl? Yeah, Egg Bowl. Ole Miss also left many points on the board with the missed touchdown. Chandler's talking about, I'm assuming you're talking about the fake dive on what, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, where they had a tight end streaking down the field. You're right. They did leave points on the field. They should have teed up. Daquan Wright on that play. He would have tracked that football down. All right, let's rip through it. This man that has ice in his veins, Ty Simpson. Right now, I think it's a 2-horse race for the Heisman Trophy between Ty Simpson and Fernando Mendoza, which I'll have to cook up a good segment for you guys if it ends up being Fernando Mendoza, because I called Fernando Mendoza's very first start a couple of years ago, Cal versus Oregon State. Fernando Mendoza walked into our coaches' meetings all bright-eyed and smiling and all juiced up with his backpack. Still to this day, my favorite player interview that we've done in person, Friday production meeting. If you would have told me that day that Fernando Mendoza would win the Heisman, I would have said, get the fuck out of here. But to him, he's got the talent. He had talent that day, but just they grow up so fast. They grow up so fast. All right. Let me we're talking Bama. We're talking Ty Simpson. This right here is the touchdown and then the 2-point conversion late in the game to ultimately win the game. At this point right here in 2025, teams were 2-293 when trailing by 8 or more points in the final 3 minutes. A play like this that we're seeing here in the play before it helped Alabama change that stat to 3-293 by the time Saturday's game against South Carolina was over. And you got to give credit a lot to one dude. Ty was colder. What's colder than being cold? Let me say that again. And you got to give credit to, and you can give credit a lot to the one dude, Ty. What's colder than being cold, Simpson? Because I've yet to find out what his middle name is on the internet, so we're going with that for the time being. Tanner, hit that slide real quick. We'll get back to the footage. Because Ty Simpson, this dude's got ice in his veins. Ty Simpson generates 1.27 expected points added per play in final 2-minute situations and when trailing by 1 to 7 points. A lot going on this chart, but the color coordination helps. All right. This is how good Ty Simpson is based on the situation that his team is in. So far this season, that top bar, he's been in 3 games where he's been losing by 1 to 7 points. He's best when he's losing and down compared to when his team is up and in control. In those scenarios where he's losing by 1 to 7 points, passer rating over 200 points. That's his highest efficiency. That's getting it done. And as you can see, when he's tied with the opposing team, it's happened 7 times this year. Passing rating, still good, 182. That's above average on a relative basis for Power 4 quarterbacks. When he's winning by 8 to 14 points, you guys get the deal. It's average. Winning by 1 to 7 points, below average. In a weird way, Ty Simpson is best when he's down, which speaks to why the dude's got ice in his veins. Let's go back to that 4th quarter, though, at Williams-Brice Stadium, because we got some footage to break down. I showed you this the first time. This is the touchdown to get him within 2 points, and then they had to get the 2-point conversion right. Ryan Grubb was in his bag this game because he had some very timely play calls that then when you have a quarterback like Ty Simpson who you trust, it's the perfect package for an offensive coordinator. Reason I say that, Alabama on this play, They're going to line up their running back to the left and then motion them over to the right. Sometimes at home on your couch, you might be being like, yo, why are they doing that offensively? What does that actually do? Well, sometimes defensively, from a defensive front perspective, where the back is sets your front and how you're sliding your defensive lineman. Little thing that ends up being a big thing. The reason that matters here is because they're going to have this running back leak into the flat for a touchdown. That's ultimately where the ball goes. And the reason it works is because this defensive end who has his hand in the dirt, he's going to drop out. I don't know this to be factual, but I wouldn't be surprised if the fact that the running back being on the right-hand side triggered this defensive end to drop out, and he drops back, I should say, not out, because by going back and not to the flat, it allows this running back to beat him to the flat and ultimately get the touchdown. The concept behind it, you got a little drag with a tight end, over route by Ryan Williams, I believe that is. And then you got a little over route working right to left as well. And then a circus route. Sorry, there's a lot going on. Circus route by this receiver on the bottom of the screen. This running back working here ultimately gets this touchdown. Excellent design by Ryan Grubb, taking advantage leverage-wise of this defensive end not being a coverage guy. This is what I want you to watch. Watch this defensive end and how he does not get out to the flat. You're going to hop the running back over, defensive end, boom. You know, as I say that again, I don't think on that one the running back's movement dictated the front, but the point still holds true. That is very much a football thing when you see that on your couch of like, yo, why are they just moving them over? Just line them up there. What does that actually do? That's oftentimes why offensive coordinators do it. This is the 2-point conversion. Right here, it's what? 26-28, I believe it was. 24-26? 26-28. This is something they don't show you on the TV copy. Look at this receiver spacing here. He's so far out that allows the timing to work out. But they're going to motion the running back and quarterback in the backfield or shift him over, and they're going to hand this ball to Ty Simpson. When you hand the ball, he still is a legal passer, or an eligible passer, I should say. They're going to fake the reverse working behind him, and then tight end leaks into the flat for ultimately a touchdown. You got a receiver on the top of the screen working in, then he'll work back out, and then you got an over route. Alabama fans watching this, my Pac-12 fans, any Washington Husky, Kalen DeBoer loyalists, they'll remember this. But this is a great, in terms of Ryan Grubb being in his bag, Kalen DeBoer's favorite trick play in a must-have-it situation. They ran it at home versus Oregon and versus Bo Nix in Oregon 2 years ago. They ran it in the national championship game, I believe. This receiver right here was Rome Odunze, where you fake the handoff, then you pitch it to Rome Odunze coming back. That was Kalen DeBoer's favorite gotta-have-it trick play. So if South Carolina is going deep into their bag, and on Tuesday after practice showing the team, hey, what trick plays does Ryan Grubb like to run? They like the reverse. So this is an excellent counter off of it. I don't know if they're going 2 years deep into the footage, but as someone who covered the Pac-12, I remember Grubb and DeBoer calling that. So this is ultimately a great counter off of that, and Ty Simpson is going to hit the tight end into the flat to get the 2-point conversion, tie this ball game, and give themselves a shot later on in the game to ultimately win this game. We're good there. Tanner, throw up this last slide again before I get into this, the final two plays. Because it's not just the fourth quarter or the game winners where Ty Simpson's great. It's late down situations as well where Ty Simpson is dialed. A lot going on these spider charts. Those of you guys that have watched my breakdowns every week, you know I love these spider charts because you can see some more nuanced stats here. You know, working left to right, you got late down EPA, explosive rate, success rate, turnover, sack rate, pass EPA. But then that black arrow is what I'm pointing at right here. Week 5 on the left, not good late down EPA per play. Not good. Look at the jump in week 9. So that's getting it done on both third and fourth down. That's where Ty Simpson is very good. Simpson is now 7 for 10 on fourth down passes and 32 of 53 on third down passes. That is getting it done on money downs. See if I have anything more stats-wise for you. No, I'll work back to the footage. There's the stats. Sometimes stats lie, so let me show you the footage to back it up. Ultimately, Ty Simpson's going to hit an out route to the top of the screen. Told you Ryan Grubb's in his bag. Look at how they get to this out route. These shifts and these motions that they're doing ensure that they're going to get man coverage because they're starting in this like more wing formation and they're going to motion or shift both receivers to the right-hand side. What that does is that then puts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me see here. That then puts them in a quads formation. Quads formation, we said the same thing about Trinidad and Ole Miss. That forces the defense's hands a little bit. And I would almost guarantee that Ryan Grubb knew that, hey, when we go quads, South Carolina is going to go man coverage. And versus man coverage, we love some deep outs. I don't know if Ryan Williams caught this one, but we love deep outs with Ryan Williams in the slot. They got yeah, it's a bad color. Sorry. We got a go ball, top of the screen. We got a deep out who they're ultimately going to hit on this play. You got an over route working right to left. And you got this running back into the flat. That's tough for a defense. 4 receivers out to one side. This is a third down. Third down, ensuring you're getting man coverage. Look at Ty Simpson. He double clutches on this play because it takes this receiver some time to get out of his break. But even with the double clutch, gets the ball out of his hands. Again, this is in the fourth quarter, third down. Got to have it. Makes it look easy. It's not easy. Excellent throw, picking up the first down. And then this last one, showing you just for good measure and how aggressive this Alabama offense is. This is earlier on in this game. This is a fourth down and short. It's 14-6 Bama, 11-16 left in the third quarter. It's 4th and 1, and Bama's going for the jugular. 4th and 1, a lot of teams going, hey, dive right behind the tackles. Bama says, nah, we got arguably the best quarterback in college football, and we got probably the second best receiver in college football. So let's take some deep shots down here. They're going to dial up Ryan Williams, working left to right on an over route. You got tight end working into the flat. You got a corner route by the outside receiver on the bottom of the screen, and then an over route by the slot receiver on the bottom of the screen. But they're dialing up Ryan Williams working across into this vacated zone here, and he's open. He's open. He drops this one to whoever mentioned that in the chat. Alabama missing opportunities, but this could have been big time. Ty Simpson putting it right there. He almost like stumbles. But at that point, you pick up that first down, the whole complexion of the game could have been a lot different if you ultimately get points there. At that point, you're up 14-6. You get a touchdown. Let's see if I can do you're up 23-6. A lot harder to do math on the fly when you're live than sitting at home on your couch. Paid the price for that in my whatever game I was calling last week. What was that? Syracuse Pitt. Anyways, Bama offense loaded. Ty Simpson loaded. Like I said, I think it's a two-headed monster between Ty Simpson and Fernando Mendoza to win the Heisman Trophy. South Carolina was the first time South Carolina was the first time Alabama overcame an 8-point deficit in the final 3 minutes to win over the last 20 seasons. They now have an 84% chance to make the playoff, according to The Athletic. And if they get to that point where it's all about which quarterback can be more chill in the biggest moments, I got this guy, Ty. What's colder than being cold? Simpson. Dude's a baller. Chat, how we living? One last segment. Trojan Dale, how we living? If LSU can fire BK, then USC can fire Lincoln Riley. Yeah, that's where Lincoln Riley's likability helps him a lot more than Brian Kelly. I like Lincoln. And if USC fires Lincoln, add Lincoln to the next in line with Kiffin and Sark, who will find success elsewhere. You can bet on it. Because you would definitely not have said that with Sark. Probably, I don't know if you would have said that with Lane necessarily. I think USC fans know that Lincoln, the prospects, if you're a USC fan, if you were to fire Lincoln Riley, who would you feel more confident that would ultimately have success down the road at that time of getting fired? Kiffin, Sark, or Lincoln? Every USC fan would say Lincoln in that scenario. That's why I don't think USC ain't firing. They ain't firing Lincoln. I don't think they should. We'll see how the season finishes out. Always easy to say fire coach. But all right, who are you going to get? And I don't think USC would want to be in a crowded coaching market. You got Penn State, Florida, maybe Florida State, maybe Auburn. You got Arkansas, Virginia Tech, UCLA. This coaching cycle, and those of you guys that have followed my content closely over the past 9 months, I said it back in January. This was going to be a coaching bloodbath in December because it was such a light coaching carousel last year. Naturally, the market overcorrects the next year. 2026 could then revert back more to the norm where there's not as many jobs open. But we shall see. We shall see. Tanner, let's pop up Diego Pavia real quick. The slide. If you're somebody hoping for Diego Pavia to be the first guy from Vanderbilt to hoist the Heisman Trophy, close your eyes for a second. This is how Diego Pavia stacks up against the last 7 Heisman-winning quarterbacks if he were to finish the season at his current pace. In high level, it is not even close. Not even close. And just to make sure I'm communicating this chart correctly. So the guys below Diego Pavia, obviously all Heisman Trophy winners. That's where their stat line ended up by the time they were winning the Heisman Trophy, or might have been at the end of the season. But regardless, in December or January, if Diego Pavia stayed at his current rate, those would be his numbers at the same time as Jayden Daniels and Joe Burrow and Kyler Murray winning the Heisman. 23 touchdown passes is all he'd have on the year and only 8 rushing touchdowns. It's not even close. Joe Burrow's year was a statistical outlier, but even guys that the dual threat guys, Jayden Daniels, Kyler Murray, they're still putting up 40 touchdown passes. Lamar Jackson, goodness gracious, Lamar had 21 rushing touchdowns, and so did Johnny. Diego Pavia right now, he's only at 8. And so I love the story. I do, and I'll get into some of those points. But when you look at it relative to the other guys, it's really not even close. The one guy you can try to kind of make an argument for is Tim Tebow, because Tim Tebow had the same cultural impact, college football phenomenon taking over the college football world as a brand. Like Tim Tebow, I'm not saying Tim Tebow and Diego Pavia are cut from the same cloth, but from they're always a top 5 story every single week. Tebow and Pavia are similar in that way, but even Tebow, 23 rushing touchdowns. Even though the yards weren't there, rushing yards are comparable. Passing yards are like kind of in the same family if you want it to be. Even Tebow was over the top and in a different level. And Tanner, roll to the next slide. if you're in Pavia's camp and you're trying to make the case, you're saying, hey, Max, as Mr. saying in the comments, hey, that's not the identity for Vanderbilt. They're not going to be high flying. They're not going to have tons of plays and explosive players around him. He doesn't have Percy Harvin and Aaron Hernandez and some dudes out wide like Tim Tebow. Like, that's not Vandy's identity. Where the argument you would try to make is on an advanced analytics standpoint, hey, Pavia can go toe-to-toe with these guys. And even then, though, it still falls short. When you look at Kyler Murray and Jayden Daniels, the two most recent quarterback Heisman Trophy winners, taking Joe Burrow out because Burrow was his stats were stupid. So I strategically, again, if you're in Pavia's camp trying to doctor up the perfect cadence for him, you'd look at Kyler and Jayden. But even then, from an advanced analytics standpoint, it's still not there. Kyler and Jayden are still a whole notch better explosive play rate, early down success rate, EPA per play, and overall success rate. And on that note, Tanner, scroll down to the top 6 EPA per play. Relative to the other quarterbacks in college football. Again, trying to make the case there. This is the one area where if you're pounding the table for Diego Pavia, relative to this year's quarterbacks, his EPA is similar, 0.33. This is per dropback. Top 6 quarterbacks, EPA per dropback. Jaden Maiava leads the ranks at 0.48, but he's in that top 6. Obviously, Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson are right there behind him. Tanner, take this slide off. A few little points on Diego Pavia. The scheme that he is in will hurt him from a Heisman perspective because he will not have the stats to contend, in my opinion. But the scheme that he's in is why he has the legacy he does. Vandy's offense is unique. Diego Pavia, I don't think, would be the Diego Pavia we know if you put him in LSU's offense, if you put him in Texas A&M's offense, if you put him in Ole Miss's offense, maybe Texas A&M, maybe there, but you put him in LSU, you put him in Ole Miss, he would not be the Diego Pavia that we know. He's in Vandy's offense that has embraced the triple option tendencies, which then as a result, you're going to be a more ball control offense. He'll look back and maybe in December, it's going to be his Achilles heel because he doesn't have the stats to contend for a Heisman Trophy. And it might be like, dang, he's missing out. His offense hurt him. But make no mistake, if there's ever a jersey retirement someday for Diego Pavia, it will be because of this scheme. It hurts him in one area. It might be the reason he doesn't win the Heisman, but it will be the reason that his jersey probably gets retired one day. Other point in this Diego Pavia Heisman conversation and why I don't think he will be a serious contender. He might get, I do think at this rate he would get an invite to New York because the story's that good. But on that exact point, Fernando Mendoza being a factor hurts Diego Pavia. If Diego Pavia was in last year's race, or maybe a race where it's like, actually just if Fernando Mendoza didn't exist and it was Ohio State quarterback and Alabama quarterback as the two frontrunners, which that's where it would be right now, and Marcel Reed. You got Mendoza plus 330, Julian Sayin plus 400. But if you, Ty Simpson plus 330 and Julian Sayin plus 400. If you took Mendoza out, then people might get tired with the, another Ohio State contender, another Alabama quarterback, must be nice with all the playmakers they have around them. Mendoza will steal, we've never seen this before, legacy votes from Diego Pavia. So the voter that's like, I'm bored with Alabama and I'm bored with, a Ohio State quarterback. Not that there has been an Ohio State quarterback in recent memory, shout out Joe Burrow, to win the Heisman. But I do think there's going to be voters that are like, there's a lot of guys that could win the Heisman if they had Jeremiah Smith and Tate as my receivers. But again, my point is that's going to work to Mendoza's favor or Mendoza's benefit, where we've never seen Indiana in this scenario before. We've never seen Vandy in this scenario before as well, but it's going to hurt Pavia in that way. And I think it's also rightfully so. Curt Cignetti is getting his flowers. But if Indiana didn't exist, can you imagine the coaching carousel temperament around Clark Lea? Clark Lea is getting some buzz, as he should. But it'd be even more so if Curt Cignetti did not exist. I mean, the reality is Diego Pavia last week goes 10 for 19, 129 yards passing and an interception. Love the flair. He's backed it up, but that's not ultimately going to get you a Heisman. But I do think he gets invited to New York. And one of the most impressive things for Diego Pavia, because I wasn't on board with it last year. I was kind of like, dude, chill, man. Like, I was very much in the camp of like, yo, this guy's being arrogant, like, chill, dude. But the dude has continued to back it up. And I'm now on board with the fact of like his personality is perfect for Vandy. And I know people were saying that last year, but it's really coming to fruition this year. That this dude has had the marketability all off season, all the hype, all the flair. So often you see when the expectations are so high, guys just can't match it. They can't repeat what they did last year. Diego Pavia has backed it up. I think he deserves to be in New York, even if the stats aren't there as a result. And credit him for marketing himself like he deserves to the marketability that he brought to the park. Like, if he didn't have his personality, imagine where we would be talking about him. He would not be in the Heisman. He would not have plus 880 odds if he was a different personality. He has branded and talked this and spoke this into existence. To his credit, they should do Harvard Business Review case study on that, on the NIL earnings, the marketability. You know, so often right now you're seeing programs like, I'm sure Alabama's coming up with some Ty Simpson marketability Heisman promo campaign. For Vandy, it's just take the playbook we've already been using for the past 9 weeks, 9 months, and insert it there. Let me get to a few plays, because if Pavia is going to make a run, and we're going to look back here in five weeks and it's Max, you're a dumbass, what are you talking about? It's going to have to be because of these plays, which did not show up last week versus Mizzou, but did show up the week before versus LSU. The playmaking from Diego Pavia. Ultimately, he's just going to scramble and find a lane right here in between the guard and the tackle. This is when Pavia is at his best. Get out of lanes, scrambles up, off-schedule plays, make it happen. Diego Pavia. This is the one, and you guys will recognize this from last week's breakdown. They're going to fake a dive, and Diego Pavia is going to scramble all the way back here, and then he's ultimately going to find his running back leaking out to the right. This is not how you draw it up in the quarterback room, but you'll take it every single day of the week. These are the types of plays, and he's going to have some Heisman-type moments and matchups coming up. That's the Diego Pavia special. Unless he finds another gear in these last 4 games, I don't think he can win the Heisman, but this is where the extra gear happens. Climbing the pocket, getting through, getting a touchdown. Diego Pavia. And then this last play right here, this was his best throw last week by far. And if you're just watching this clip and this is the first time you've heard me talk about Diego Pavia, check the old footage, because I've been giving Diego Pavia his flowers. Early on in the season, early October, late September, I was saying he's the most underrated passer in the country. People don't give him that credit. He's going to hit this, hopefully we can see it on the breakdown. He's going to hit a vertical route on the bottom of the screen. This is an absolute dime. Heck of a catch. Absolute dime, putting this on the spot. We don't give Diego Pavia, the passer, as much credit as we should. Again, because the stats aren't there, but he's efficient. He's statistically, the stats back it up, one of the most efficient passers in college football. Vanderbilt improved their chances of making the playoff by 17.6% by beating Missouri on Saturday. The Athletic now gives them 26% chance to get to the CFP. Imagine saying that sentence in 2021 and people act like the 12-team college football playoff is not good for college football. Get out of here with that. Right now, we're sitting, it's October 26th. Vanderbilt has a legitimate path to the national championship. That's all you need to say about the benefits of a 12-team college football playoff. That's factual because they had a good matchup with Alabama, and I still think Alabama is a national title contending team. What Diego Pavia has done to this point has been nothing short of outstanding. Chat, thanks for hanging. The numbers were good. I saw them out of the corner of my eye. I got a dash. We're going long. It's already 5:40. I got a dinner resi to hit up. Always appreciate the chat being active. For those of you guys on TikTok holding it down, appreciate you. X, Instagram as well. These are the Sunday show has been fun, and I clip all these out. So check them out on YouTube. We are rocking and rolling on YouTube. The numbers are increasing. I have you guys to thank for that. And keep a lookout for the game previews. So this same flair of 8 to 10 minute breakdowns using game footage, I'm using that same thing previewing games before. It's not just going through the same talking points that everyone else is going through. I'll see this stat, that's the matchup for the game, and then back it up with film. So check that out all week. But until then, have a great rest of your night. Enjoy Sunday Night Football. I was in the booth last night. So it was funny. Last little point. I was calling the Pitt versus North Carolina State game, and we had to give our open off to the side because the Sunday night Chris Collinsworth booth setup was already in place. So that was a broadcasting first for me, getting the boot because the big dogs were coming in the next day. Anyways, enjoy the night of football, and I'll see you guys on